Tonight's episode of For Your Amusement is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. This, as you may recognize, is a standard issue Tiki-themed podcast room, still in operation, waiting for you. We invite you to step aboard if you dare, because in tonight's episode, you are the star. And this episode travels directly to the Amusement Zone. Welcome to For Your Amusement, a theme park podcast that aims to exhaustively evaluate the world's most popular theme park attractions to determine if they are world class. I'm Ryan Bergara.
I'm Byron Marin.
And for this episode's featured attraction, we step through the door of an elevator and into a nightmare to discuss Tower of Terror at Hollywood Studios in Walt Disney World, Florida, but also in different forms at Walt Disney Studios in Disneyland Paris, as well as in Tokyo Disney Sea. And joining us in the fifth dimension is none other than the one they call Garrett Watts, aka one of the coolest dudes on YouTube. He's been on the show. Thank you for coming back.
Welcome back.
It's good to be back in this astronomically little room.
That's correct. It does look very large, but I promise you, we are packed to the gills in here.
You know, before we started shooting, Ryan said, "Hey, this room isn't really you-sized." And then I said, "Yeah, I agree." And then he goes, "It's not even really me-sized."
Which is saying something.
It's just saying something. So you can imagine how not me-sized it is. I thought that was a nice wordplay.
What you don't know is Garrett's actually a very small man. So is Shane Madej. And I, Ryan Bergara, can actually fit inside of a matchbox.
Oh, buddy, you sleep in there.
I do.
Like that mouse from Mouse Hunt.
It's great. I love it. It's nice and cozy. And as always, please like and subscribe to keep us alive if you're watching the video version over on youtube.com/@FYIPod. Or if you're listening to the audio version, subscribe and rate the podcast 5 stars. And consider supporting us on our fourth wall, which is a different version of Patreon. You can join our fourth wall and become a park hopper, as we're calling it, by heading to FYAPod.com. Not only will it help us keep this madness going, but you'll also get up to 3 monthly bonus shows in addition to the free main show you're tuning into now. And finally, FYAPod.com is also where our merch is. Very nice. Now let's get into this. Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, one of the greatest rides of all time, routinely voted one of the best dark rides of all time. And maybe short with us on this earth soon, I would say.
No.
I don't know. Well, we could get into that later. I have no idea what their plans are for this ride. It kind of feels like an outlier now, especially at Hollywood Studios, which has become like an IP park.
Interesting.
Really?
I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if they get rid of this. Maybe I'm still salty that they took it away from me in California Adventure. That's possible.
I think it's PTSD.
I am traumatized by that. Mm-hmm. It's the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to me.
All right, take it easy. And by the way, for anyone listening, I'm no expert on the Tower of Terror, but I think my only thing with being on this is that I was one of the first people ever to ride it. Am I saying that too soon?
No, I don't think so. I think that's actually a great way to start this, because Garrett, he's a spooky boy. If you don't know, Garrett hunts ghosts just like I do. This is just hunting ghosts is my side job. This is my main job. I live in this tiki room, but I do hunt ghosts on the side, as does Garrett.
Yeah. The Tower of Terror. Okay, here's my question for you. We'll get to all that lore, okay, later.
Sure.
But my question for you two is, if you were to see the Tower of Terror rethemed, what would it be?
Well, we did see we rethemed the Guardians, but
no. I mean, if you were to see, like, the last Tower of Terror, because there's only one Tower of Terror left, right?
There's 3 now.
That's what I said. It's just that I said there were 3, you said there were 1. It's fine. I'm cool with correcting you guys.
No, for sure.
All right, no, but if they were to transition the one at Disney World.
It's hot as fuck in here. I'm sorry. I'm taking off this Rod Serling coat.
Okay, that was the F word. Do you guys cuss on this podcast?
Yeah, I don't.
It appears so.
Have you ever seen?
I don't give a shit.
As of right now, that was the first F-bomb ever dropped on this show.
I don't know if this is exhausting for the listener or you guys to hear someone reference this show, but on I Think You Should Leave, my favorite line from the whole show is the haunted house episode where it's like, it's adult night, so we could say whatever the hell we want.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
I actually don't think I've seen that sketch. I do love that show, though.
Oh, anyone listening who loves that show,
chime off in the comments.
That is one of the most iconic sketches. They say it's adult night and you can say whatever the hell you want. And so Tim Robinson takes it upon himself to say like the most horrible things in this tour group. You know,
that's what we're going to be doing today.
He keeps it's great. Okay.
This is a fucking great tiki room.
Dude, that's crazy. Ooh, I'm going to kick my helling feet up. I don't know.
What the fuck?
Oh, sorry.
So you were one of the first people to ride this ride, and that's because if you weren't familiar when Garrett was on this podcast last time,
yes,
he kind of lived in Disney World in a weird way.
Yes, when I was a boy, my sibling, when I was a little boy, I should say, I'm still a boy.
Yeah.
Weird. I don't know what I'm doing. Sorry.
No, you're great.
I need some more caffeine.
We're all children at heart here.
I like that idea.
That is true.
That's really
It's
interesting.
kind of a requirement when you run a theme park podcast.
That is true. When you enter a tiki-themed podcast room, I think all bets are off.
There's a lot of psychological breaks down about that I've seen on the internet about like an entire generation, us and moving forward, how we're all just kind of like, who cares? The world's burning. Let's just be kiddos.
I mean, look, I'm not going to pretend that I'm a grown man, but I guess I am.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, yeah. So, I basically grew up at Disney World because both my parents worked there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even in like preschool yet. So I would go to them very often. Like I would go to Disney with them.
Yes.
And so my siblings and I were just there all the time, just running around, little rapscallions.
And you got to get on this ride then.
Yeah. And I was one of the first people to ever test the ride. I think the first time I rode it was, now I'm not sure if my math makes sense because there's probably experts sitting right in front of me and maybe on this podcast, but I want to say it was in like 1995. Does that make sense math wise?
It opened in 1994. So,
oh, you guys want me to, or I'll actually ask you this just kind of like off camera. Do you want me to call my dad and ask for like the facts?
Why don't you text him? Because then we could pop them in and they'll pop in. Or you know what?
I think a call would be interesting.
Call would be pretty good. I think you're right. Let's call your dad.
He's got a funny phone voice sort of situation.
We could put the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire phone a friend music under this shit.
He probably won't remember either, but it could be fun.
Hey, Dad, you have 5 seconds. Give us everything you know.
Yeah. So this is my dad who worked at Disney, who, the whole Blue Man story from the last podcast. Hey, Dad, how's it? Oh, here, let me make sure. Hey, how's it going?
Great.
Good.
How are you doing?
Hey, quick question for you. You're on a podcast right now. You just don't know it. It's about amusement rides, apparently. Wasn't I like one of the first people to ever test ride Tower of Terror?
Yes, you were. That was before they modified it. It ended up that when we went on the test rides, it was too fast.
Ooh.
They actually pulled it down rather than let it free fall. They pulled it down hydraulically.
Yes.
And it was too fast. People were losing their
lunch.
Their lunch.
Excuse me, Mr. Watts.
So they had to modify it and slow it down.
Yeah, I think Ryan has a question for you.
Hi, Mr. Watts. My name is Ryan. I'm Garrett's friend.
Hi, Ryan.
This feels like you're talking to two kids at the schoolyard. But I'm aware that it has wires that pull it down faster than gravity. Are you saying that it at one point pulled them even faster and they had to kind of tone it down?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh my God.
They had the families of the management and their families were able to come for these test rides, which they do with every new ride. And so we were the guinea pigs, and I guess some thought it was just, way too fast. So,
what year was that?
Well, let's see. That would be 1990, probably about. Let's see, when it was whenever Tower of Terror opened.
Yeah, I don't know the actual date. All right, Dad, you're 94. The best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Watts.
Oh, one more quick one, Mr. Watts. The last time
this is Byron, by the way.
This is Byron. Great to meet you over the phone. The last time we were chatting with Garrett, he had mentioned that you may have worked at a restaurant that had boat in the title, and I'm trying to get a confirmation on if it was Boat Rights at Port Orleans.
It was my mom, yeah.
Was it your mom?
Yeah. We can get her on the phone, too.
Was Boat Rights the restaurant?
Yes, it was Boat Rights. It was really good, kind of a French American style.
Yeah. No, I love that hotel. So
last time I told them the story about the blue man and
the guy who blew himself
and the air ducts.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
One last question, and this actually is not theme park related, so excuse me if this is overstepping. I have to know, why is your name on Garrett's phone Ice?
Oh, the viewer already is in front of you with this one. Ice Dad. Do any of you know? Ooh, this is like a game show.
His name is Ice.
You don't know that?
No.
Really? Do you know that, Byron?
I don't know, the Iceman.
Yeah, in case of emergency.
Oh!
In case they find your body or something.
Okay. Morbid. I like it.
All right, y'all have any other questions for my dad who worked at Disney for a long time?
No, I think that might be it.
He was going to put a contract out on my life to ice his father.
Nope, that's actually not what I thought, but it is alarming that that's what you think he's going to do.
Yeah.
It seems.
Dad, are we okay? I think we need to talk. All right, I'll talk to you later, huh?
Always threatening. Okay.
All right, bye. Let me see you. Bye-bye.
That was incredible.
You guys can cut that up if it's
riveting
information.
No, we got it. That was riveting. That was the
actually.
first phone a friend on For Your Amusement. So.
I like things like that.
It was great, and I know, and we got a sneak preview of what we're going to be talking about in the fun facts, because this ride does drop faster than gravity.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
Although the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror may simulate an experience of danger and perhaps death, chances are you're going to walk out of that service elevator safe and full of positive energy. Now, speaking of taking chances, what you don't want to do is take chances when it comes to your actual health. And thanks to ZocDoc, finding the right doctor for you is never left to chance. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much more. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. I personally used to despise the trials and tribulations associated with finding the right doctor for my needs, especially in a packed city like LA where appointment turnarounds can stretch for several months, but no more of that thanks to ZocDoc. So stop putting off those doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/FY. Find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/FY. ZocDoc.com/FY.
So if they were to, because there's still a Tower of Terror at Disney World.
Yes.
What if they were to retheme that? What would you two see it rethemed as?
And it keeps the same ride system?
Yes. No, you could retheme it as anything, much like they did with Guardians of the Galaxy. But if you could choose a theme, and it could be anything. I mean, I know there's kind of a nuance here with Disney IP, but like, what would it be?
Wasn't there that M. Night Shyamalan movie that took place in an elevator? Do you remember? Devil. We should make it Devil.
Can you imagine it was Trap?
We should make the entire ride, just every floor is a different M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Just everyone in the line like, wait, like, what are you gonna do? This is like a movie?
You get to the 5th floor, you see the alien from Signs walk by. You get to the 6th floor, it's that old lady from Old.
Oh, the entire M. Night Shyamalan.
The Shyamalaniverse.
Now, that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah. 13 floors of Shyamalan.
Oh, I can actually see that.
Or it's randomized where you get a different Shyamalan flick every time. So that like Lady in the Water pops up. You're like, fuck!
That's great.
That's amazing.
No, you would do that if you got The Happening. If you got The Happening, you'd be like, oh, fuck.
I can actually really see that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I can imagine Xavier, when you get to one of the floors in his character, when he's like that little prudent old woman. What's his name?
Xavier?
Yeah, James McAvoy.
Oh, yeah, Split.
Yeah.
You're talking about Split.
Can you imagine? You go to one of the floors. And
you referred to James McAvoy, the human, as Charles Xavier.
The guy from Wanted.
The guy.
No, but you know what? Can you imagine you get to one of the floors and it's that woman standing there like, oh, hello, darlings. You know, he has that
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What's her name? Yeah,
like,
the caretaker
matronly.
character. Split, low-key, a really underrated film and a crazy performance. This is we'll get to the Tower of Terror soon here, but did you know that the cast and crew, after he was done with takes on Split, would actually stand up and give a round of applause because it was so theatrical?
I didn't know that. Have y'all seen that meme going around right now? By the way, if they invite me on the podcast, we're not getting to that much information. It's a lot of me just yapping. But have you seen that meme going around of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban receives a 40-minute standing ovation from me after seeing it for the 300th time in my living room.
Oh yeah,
it's very funny.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It really fell apart when I was saying it out loud.
That's you every time you see Split.
No, I've only seen it twice. Let's just stop filming. This sucks. Oh, sorry, I should refocus. My bad.
It's just I couldn't.
But that's a really cool answer. What about you if you were to see it rethemed?
Oh gosh, if like it didn't matter like the surroundings of the ride, like if it was just the ride, I would be curious to see, because the original concepts for this, like of them wanting to do a drop tower ride, was in the form of like a journey to the center of the earth. For Paris, there's also Geyser Mountain, which would have been like a mine shaft dropped ride, like they had planned for Frontierland in Paris, I think. So that would have been interesting. That's think really, of any other.
That's
IPs.
Fascinating. If you were to create the illusion of like constantly going down through crusts of the earth, you could do that really convincingly.
True.
Like make people
slices.
think that they're dropping thousands and thousands. That's scary.
The thing,
that's scary.
Actually, Garrett, you've inadvertently did one of the sections of the show, which is Armchair Engineering, where we come up with something to make the ride even better.
Ooh.
And now we don't have to do that section.
Amazing.
Tarantula's loose in the elevator.
That's what, that's what you would do. That's pretty good. That's like the Beatles in the Mummy. Let's move on to some first impressions. Garrett, you said you were one of the first people to ride this ride. What was your first impression? How old were you?
I was but a boy. I was like probably I was about 5 years old, maybe.
Oh shit, that is young.
5 or 6.
You must have been fucking terrified.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I was like allowed to ride it. You know what I mean? Like a 5 or 6 year old. I mean, I've always been quite large, so maybe that was going for me.
I mean, I hope you were smaller than you are now.
It's always had a pretty small height requirement, given how intense it is. So I think there's a chance there.
Yeah, I mean, I was this height at 6 years old.
That's crazy, dude.
I buy that. Yeah,
you haven't had to buy clothes for like
a long time,
several decades.
A long time. This was my first mozzarella sticks shirt ever. When I was 2. I'm dodging your question. Let me see. I'm trying to remember. I'm not trying to remember. It was terrifying. Like, I remember the coolest.
Did you cry?
No. Yes, I did for a long time.
You had to have cried.
I cried because I didn't want to go, and my siblings made me. I was like, that kid who was just like, no, like, I'm not doing it. Like, just screaming.
I can't believe your dad, who's named In Case of Emergency, took you on Tower of Terror at 5.
You know what? He was actually working. It was just my siblings and I that did it. I think he probably did it later or before or after at some point. Yeah. But the first time I went on it was just my siblings and I. And yeah, I was really resilient to go. My brother made me go on it. And I was definitely like, that, oh my gosh, I just remembered this emotion. When you're a kid and like you go through something scary that's like fun and you're like crying afterwards with like your siblings or your friends around you being like, see, wasn't that fun? And you're like, yeah.
Oh no, that's the big brother conundrum. So I have a younger brother. It seems you're the younger brother.
Yeah.
So when you're the bigger brother and you take your younger brother into something scary and they start crying, your immediate reaction is like, oh fuck, I'm gonna get in trouble. So it's like, see, that was fun, right? Come on, it's okay. You're having a good time, kind of thing.
Interesting. That's really sweet.
And they're doing that kid thing where they cry when their mouth doesn't move, but it's open.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about when they're going there?
Kids ain't it, man. Yeah, it's kind of a yawn.
Yeah, it's like a yawn cry.
A little bit like a yawn. But it was a really cool experience. I remember the coolest.
Your toe in slow motion.
Yeah. The coolest part about it was the queue. Remember that?
The queue. Oh, we're going to talk about the queue.
Brother,
we're talking about the queue today.
I loved the industrial drippy. It was always like that too. I remember it was like a lot of red metals and really horrifying.
They wanted to, this is the opposite of Haunted Mansion, where Haunted Mansion in Disneyland, they wanted to look pristine. This place, they wanted it to look decrepit and broke down.
Is that valid? Like that's the actual kind of like design?
I think so.
I
have some fun facts about that.
I can't wait to hear. But yeah, you can hit me with any old questions. But yeah, terrified. Eventually went on it, and it was like the coolest experience ever.
For me, and I'll keep this brief. Is that I love this ride. I don't have any expert analysis.
Yeah.
I just have been always a fan of the horror genre. So seeing a ride where Disney kind of went for it in a horror setting.
They really did.
I loved it. I fell in love with the ride immediately, and it quickly became one of my favorite rides of all time. The one in Florida is incredible, and I'm sad they took the one from California Adventure. How
old were you when you went on because you went on the California Adventure one first, right?
Yes, because that came out in
2004.
Yeah, so I went on that when I was 13 or 14.
Yeah, we've been around the same age.
15, maybe 15.
Mm-hmm. Do y'all know the building that it takes inspiration from? The Hollywood Tower?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, every time I drive past it, I'm like, cool, it's a tower tear, even though it looks
Wait a second. Which one are you talking about?
The Hollywood Tower in Hollywood?
Oh, they didn't. That's not where they got it from.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, maybe I'm mistaken. I'm sorry.
It's I think it's the Mission Inn in Riverside.
Really?
Because it's kind of got this kind of like terracotta, European vibe, but the inside is actually inspired by the Biltmore.
Really? Well, that makes perfect sense.
Which is an actual haunted building in Los Angeles, which I'm sure you might have been to in your travels.
I've had a couple drinks in there.
Couple spirits.
No, I like, dude. This is why you
Come
watch.
on now.
I mean,
Come on now.
You can't get that from anywhere else.
Come on.
You can't get that from Garrett Watts Channel. You can't get that from Sam and Colby. No one else is on that level.
That's right. That's right. I appreciate it. That's not true, but I appreciate
so many
it.
future dad jokes.
Yes.
In the making.
Byron, what was your first impression of this?
Okay, so first impression, I was actually one of the first ones to go on the California Adventure version. I got in through a cast preview when I was like 12 or 13 years old.
Nice.
But the first impression of this ride in general was in 2000 at Disney World. I was 8 years old. I had no interest in going on any sort of drop tower ride. All I saw was those windows open up and you just see the people screaming out and they drop and the doors close again. Best. A brilliant move, but for me, it just like looked like they were getting tortured in there from the outside looking in. I chickened out, didn't want to do it. Still had no interest in doing drop tower rides, even into, early teenage years. However, when, my dad says, hey, like we have, someone we know that's a cast member that's asking us if we want to go like right now this evening to go on it before anyone else can. Yeah. You're kind of like, I'm like, I got it. Like as a theme park nerd, even at that age, I'm like, I got to go on this. I got to try it out. Like, so I was shitting my pants the entire time in that boiler room.
It's a lot of shit. It's a long ride.
It's also a lot of food if you think about it.
I mean, you really were preloading.
Yeah.
But, what can I say? This is the ride that got me over my fear of drop tower experiences.
I mean, it's the best drop tower ride in the world.
I was enamored by the whole storytelling, like the anticipation, because you think you just get in a tower and start dropping, and there's so much more to this attraction.
It's so good.
There's so much more than dropping.
So much more.
There's a narrative. I have a question for experts such as yourself on Tower Terror.
Yeah.
Have they ever nerfed the horror aspect, not the technical aspect, the horror aspect of the ride? Because there's still a couple things that I go on at Disney to this day that I'm a little like, that's a little crazy. That's around in 2024, like someone hanging from a noose and stuff like that.
I think that's going to be nerfed soon, by the way.
Yeah,
unfortunately, which I get it, but the Tower of Terror, no, they actually haven't really nerfed this. There was one effect that they took off, but it's because it didn't work.
I wish I like when things are scary though. Even for,
it's the best.
I remember when I was watching like the first Harry Potter movie as a little kid, and nearly Headless Nick like takes his head off, and you see his bones and his visceral like the blood, and I was like, that's crazy that's in this movie. That's actually kind of haunting. I thought
you were talking about that little funny guy in the back of that guy's head.
Oh,
isn't that Voldemort? He's just like,
Professor Quill.
Give me a Dorito.
Parasite.
That's really funny.
I want some Cheez-Its. Please.
That's crazy.
I don't have any hands.
Did he eat the same stomach or whatever?
They
I don't know
have
how
to.
that worked.
Let's move on to some history, Byron. Let's get into it. Let's get into the thick of it.
All right. In the summer of 1982, Six Flags Magic Mountain would introduce a new and innovative drop tower attraction by the name of Freefall.
Freefall. To experience it, you have to come to Six Flags Magic Mountain.
Designed by Intamin, this model would make its way to various amusement parks throughout the 1980s and catch the interest of the theme park industry at large, including the likes of Walt Disney Imagineering. As a matter of fact, inspiration from this Intamin freefall model made its way into the development phase of Disneyland Paris, in which an early concept for a land inspired by the works of Jules Verne was to include a journey to the center of the Earth freefall drop through a volcano. And although Disneyland Paris, or Euro Disney at the time, would eventually open with the Jules Verne-inspired Discoveryland, the journey to the center of the Earth freefall attraction would never come to be. In Paris, that is. Don't come at me, Tokyo Disney Sea fans. But anyways...
They'd have to swim across the sea to come at you. That's kind of funny to think about. A bunch of pissed people at you swimming across.
If we're taking this literally, then I think we're pretty safe.
It would look like an army of dolphins.
The Navy just like, we're not sure what we're seeing, but it looks like thousands of people swimming.
What the fuck
thousands
is that?
of angry theme park heads.
They dial in their sound. It's just like, Byron!
Well, also, if it was that many people coming from Japan at that large of a radius of splash, I would have to assume it's Godzilla coming towards me, which would be awesome.
Dude, that's cool. I'm sorry, Byron. Continue.
Oh, no. Well, actually, speaking of which...
Would love to get fucking stomped on by Godzilla.
That'd be
cool.
Funny enough, Now that you've tied in Godzilla, did you ever hear about how there was an attraction that was going to feature Godzilla that was being developed at the same time as Tower of Terror?
Oh, that's cool. We both
If
made the
only.
same.
It's the
If
same
only.
Imagineer.
You know
Yeah.
what? I just realized I would change my answer to retheming it to a Godzilla attraction
That's
somehow.
the best thing I've ever heard.
Because if the elevator peaked out and they made it so it looked like there was like a giant Godzilla head looking at you, it would be, you would have the illusion that his whole body was down below.
Ooh, imagine what if they have AI tech on it nowadays and Godzilla goes, I'm hungry for it, Ryan Bergara. That's cool.
Okay, we can workshop that one a little bit. But I think we're on to something.
The Imagineer that came up with the idea of doing Twilight Zone and the creative, Kevin Rafferty, he was working on, it was like a creature, like animatronic, like theater show. That was basically like an Academy Awards, but for like your favorite like creatures.
Whoa.
Okay, that's
So I think
crazy.
it was like very like tongue in cheek, and like the main guest at the end to like achieve his lifetime achievement award was like Godzilla. Of course, Michael Eisner loved this idea, but
That's a crazy. That's a high idea if I've ever heard
But he
one.
took a detour from working on that show to when he came up with the idea for this.
Kevin Rafferty, more like Kevin Reeferty.
You know what I'm talking
Hey, we can finish here. You're good, Ryan.
But
You probably
anyways.
go do something else.
All right, let's
I'm talking about he smokes weed.
Okay, now that's pretty cool.
We can't say
been
that.
registered.
I can't claim that. I don't know if he smokes weed.
Anyways, back to the history here. We're going to stay in the 80s for just a bit longer. May 1st of 1989 to be exact, where we would get the opening of Disney MGM Studios.
Okay.
This new park, and the first to open under Michael Eisner's leadership, debuted with a limited number of attractions. It is important to note that MGM Studios wasn't originally conceptualized as its own standalone park, and according to Kevin Rafferty, was at one point intended to be a pavilion at Epcot that was dedicated to the magic of movie making. Speaking of Kevin Rafferty, the soon-to-be Disney legend was, at the time, supporting a team of Imagineers with developing new attractions for what was at the time a half-day park. I'll also add that Universal Studios was scheduled to open in 1990, which Rafferty admits was a huge motivator for adding more attractions to MGM Studios.
Yeah, this is the classic. This is what's happening right now. The theme park wars. I like that Universal and Disney are both good now because they have to beat each other.
That's fantastic.
It means more rides for me.
that horror land at the new Universal.
What land?
The horror land? Wait.
Oh yeah,
They just invite a bunch of, it's real sticky in there.
You tell this guy you could curse in this podcast. He's going crazy over here.
Yeah. No, you know what I'm talking about though. Universal Monster
Yeah,
Land.
you're talking about Dark Universe.
Can you believe how fun that'll be? Can you imagine?
Dude, I thought of well, as soon as that video got released, I got a text from you.
Yeah.
And it was you asking like, this legit?
Yeah.
This happening?
That's crazy.
And it's-
That's very interesting. I didn't know all those things that you just said.
Oh, great! I'm glad we brought. Glad we brought value to your day.
Can I tell you guys something crazy? And then I promise I'll get back on subject.
Yeah.
My dad opened up, or was one of the people who went to open up Euro Disney.
Yeah.
And he had to go undercover as like a farmer with like a pitchfork and stuff. Because there were all these like farmers and stuff who were really pissed about it happening, that were dumping like manure and like trying to mess up the construction and lighting bales of hay on fire. And so my dad had to be amongst them dressed as a French farmer with like a pitchfork being like, oh,
We got to get Ice on the podcast, it sounds like, because this guy has some tales.
isn't that crazy though?
It is fucking crazy. It's insane.
Okay, so about the Tower of Terror, huh?
Yeah, let's get back into
yeah.
that.
So, anyways, with Universal Studios Florida opening up in 1990, they wanted to add more attractions to MGM Studios. This would include cloning Star Tours from Disneyland, working with Jim Henson to create Muppet Vision 3D, and most important to this episode, development on a major expansion to the park known as Sunset Boulevard. However, the anchored attraction for this new land was prone to hitting many roadblocks during its conceptualizing phase. That being said, the overall idea, whether it be a Mel Brooks-inspired movie set or a murder mystery in the spirit of the famous board game Clue, revolved around the idea of featuring a drop tower within a massive hotel structure. And although these early concepts were all turned down by Michael Eisner, something was about to happen that would change all that.
Very good.
Because one average day long ago, two people stepped foot into an office and brainstormed a nightmare. These two people being Kevin Rafferty and designer Steve Kirk. Rafferty would would stay true to the park's theme of Hollywood and tie it in with an iconic intellectual property that was capable of championing a chilling original story. And just like that, the title Twilight Zone Tower of Terror was born. Rafferty would rush out of Kirk's office and straight to his computer to write the attraction's original treatment, which goes as follows.
Wait, is this treatment different than what it ended up becoming?
Yes.
Oh, I'm fucking excited. I've never heard this before.
Witness, if you will, a Hollywood tower hotel that stretches up towards the vastness of space, through the void that is the sky beyond the limits of your imagination. For the tower is host to a most uncommon pair of service elevators, just as the hotel is host to a most uncommon pair of residents. Science fiction and the fantasy of terror. It has been said that science fiction is the improbable made possible, and fantasy is the impossible made probable. If you should dare check into this hotel, you may find yourself impossibly lost within the hidden corridors of the improbable. Lost inside a dimension between light and shadow, between science and the supernatural, between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. But don't worry, there is an escape. Simply step into one of the elevators and press the button on the panel marked 13th floor. This button is easy to find. It is the only one. Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
Okay, does anyone else have the fucking chills?
I honestly, I have to say, it's
What? Are you creeped out the hell out?
It's not. It's first off, it's crazy that if that story is true, this guy ran to a computer and then just typed out that.
Yeah, that's if there's an award for copywriting and
You know how they have like the 48-hour film festival? If there was like the 5-minute copy festival, that guy probably wins. I have to say this though, he sure talked for about a paragraph and a half and pretty much said nothing.
Yeah.
And he did, and after this, in the book that I pulled this from, the book that he wrote, he would immediately mention, "Wow, I'd love to go back and do that one again."
Yeah, it's a lot of flowery prose. It does sound nice. It's very, very poetic. However, at the end, I'm kind of like, what's this right about?
He didn't need to explain science fiction and fantasy. That was like, we all know what that means.
He was explaining a lot of contrasts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was at the end, he was like, 13th floor.
He's just like, get Eisner lost.
Yeah, that's true. I think that was like a paragraph written to confuse execs.
That's something I would upload to ChatGPT and be like, can you summarize this into like 2 sentences, please?
ChatGPT,
which is kind of ironic because
rules.
the early pitches to Eisner, he especially the ones that were kind of very much in like the murder mystery pocket, he was just like, Frank, I don't understand this.
That's probably a good choice today. Isn't it nice to hear things that my mind always does this? Like it always sees something and imagines like an alt world where that existed and vice versa. Yeah. Like for instance, if that was a murder mystery kind of thing, I'd go, oh, there's such a cooler, it's like a positivity exercise. I go, oh, there's such a cooler world to where this would be like haunted themed, you know? And then that's the reality we live in. And I go, oh, cool. It's not this other thing.
I don't know if that's what he was doing here. I'm confused at what his goal was, but I'm glad he did it because it led to what happened.
At the very least, it was a good start because Rafferty would go on to pitch this concept to the likes of Bob Weiss, Tom Fitzgerald, and Marty Sklar before going ahead to pitch to the big guys. Long story short, Michael Eisner and Frank Wells were in love with it, and Tower of Terror would get an immediate green light.
Makes sense that Eisner would like it. That guy, you heard about his teenage son, Breck.
No, what's Breck up to?
Breck was a guy who he was Michael Eisner's teenage son. Michael Eisner, the CEO of the company. Yeah. Breck went to Disneyland.
That's a funny Instagram bio. Michael Eisner's teenage son.
Which is pretty much, honestly, like he went to Disneyland and was like, this is super boring. And I'm bored. And then his dad was like, we got to get more thrill rides in this park. And that's why more thrill rides came.
Really?
Because of Breck.
Kids are so influential on pop culture.
And their fathers.
Yeah. It's crazy. You always hear of like, oh, I wasn't going to take this role as Iron Man, but my baby was like, I like metal suit or something. You know what I mean? Like I always hear celebrity interviews.
Or just like how your dad changed his name legally to Ice.
The next challenge for the Imagineers was executing the ride system, one that conceptually drew much excitement from Eisner, but demanded various types of movements that had never been done before on a ride. The Imagineers, which included Kevin Rafferty and Steve Kirk, would need to familiarize themselves with free fall type attractions. And in order to do so, they would take a little trip from Burbank up to Six Flags Magic Mountain to ride the original free fall. Supposedly, well, not supposedly, this is what Kevin Rafferty admits to, they basically had to like pull him on and force him to get on the ride. He had no
funny.
interest in doing like drop towers or free falls. And he also admits that after like the story was like concrete before construction started, he moved on to different projects. But he said a big incentive was so he wouldn't have to test the ride.
Because you just what a scaredy cat.
Something like that. He just doesn't like the thrill rides.
I like when a horror director is afraid of horror movies.
Yeah.
Or like Spielberg, like extremely afraid of heights.
Yeah,
and
when he got on
drops
Jurassic
and stuff.
Park.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they had to. They got to the top and then like they'd stop the ride and have him walk off before the
Whoa.
drop. Yeah,
That's crazy.
Hello, Spielberg being like, I'm getting off.
That's
I'm
really
getting
funny,
off
the-
right by this giant animatronic T-Rex.
The idea of a horror director being afraid of the movie.
Well,
he's
this is like
making.
a guy who's designing a free fall ride that's afraid of free fall rides. I think that's really funny.
That's hilarious.
Make what you know.
Yeah.
Make what you know.
Make what you know.
I should make every one of my nightmares into a short film.
Imagine.
You don't want to.
All right. Fucking weird.
You're an awful.
Oh, cool.
You die.
No, we're good friends.
Not into my dreams.
Just defeat. There's nothing to
cut
say.
to commercial. Following their rides on Freefall, the team would meet up with an executive from the Otis Elevator Company in order to test out the highest speed settings on one of their new state-of-the-art elevators. What they would realize on that day was that elevator companies are not in the business of making their passengers quote-unquote feel the drop. That being said, ride engineers were tasked with modifying the traditional elevator system in order to create the tumbly tingling sensation they were looking for. In addition to creating this revolutionary method of dropping riders, the automated guided vehicle system that was previously introduced with Universe of Energy and Great Movie Ride would be used to, let's say, add a whole new dimension to this upcoming drop tower experience. Site clearing and construction for the attraction would begin in 1992, and on July 22nd of 1994, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror would officially open, garnering high praise in its pursuit of dropping its passengers into the fifth dimension. Over the years, modifications to the drop sequences would be made, which included adding drops and then ultimately randomizing them, but the compelling storyline and atmosphere has remained the same. A decade's worth of success would inspire Disney to build a second iteration of the beloved attraction at what was at the time a failing Disney's California Adventure Park. Although the scale and ride system were greatly simplified, the second iteration was still very well received when opening on May 5th of 2004. I was there. And although, I don't know why I have that in parentheses there, but anyways. And although the DCA version may no longer exist today as a Tower of Terror attraction, two more iterations based on this simplified model were built in 2006 and 2007, those being for Tokyo Disney Sea and Walt Disney's Studio Park in Paris, respectively.
That was a meaty history section.
Was it?
Oh, man, we just fucking took all that meat off the bone. Nothing left.
Yeah.
Slurped it up.
Yeah. Hey, Tower of Terror, huh? I'm serious. It's cool.
It's a pretty good ride.
I love anything that's scary like that.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's some of the ways they achieve some of the things in this ride are fascinating to me. You guys ready for some fun facts for Tower of Terror?
I can't wait.
Let's get into it. The ride is about 4 minutes long with a drop of 130 feet, moving at 39 miles per hour, and a ride capacity of about 2,000 riders per hour, and a reported cost of $140 million. We all know the backstory.
Hollywood, 1939. Amid the glitz and the glitter of a bustling young movie town at the height of its golden age, the Hollywood Tower Hotel was a star in its own right, a beacon for the show business elite. Now, something is about to happen that will change all that.
These folks got into an elevator accident on Halloween night. 5 of them were in the elevator. It was a couple, a bellman, a nanny, and a child star, all deceased. Very sad.
Why haven't they made a movie about this?
They did.
Shut up.
They made a Disney original movie called Tower of Terror based on this ride. Actually, the ride came first and the movie second.
Who the hell was in the movie?
I think Kirsten Dunst is in that movie.
She is.
way.
She is. She's in that movie.
She's a little ghost girl.
No, she's just a normal. They're a family that come to visit this hotel.
When she becomes a ghost girl.
I don't know.
This
This is around the time of Small Soldiers.
Yeah.
Remember Small Soldiers?
Yeah.
They're soldiers, except they were small.
Oh no, it's a movie? I just know about small soldiers.
Well, we're both talking about the same thing.
I just know about the idea of little soldiers.
Also, the little girl carrying a Mickey plush from that era worth a lot of money. The tower itself, the building, is 199 feet high, aka 20 stories, aka a little over 28 Shaquille O'Neals. The attraction took 3 million.
Sorry.
I got questions too. You're
Is the 199 because they do the same thing for Everest? I feel like this was confirmed once, but it has something to do with if it's 200 feet, you don't have to put the red airplane
If it's over
light.
200 feet, you have to put a little beacon on top for air traffic purposes. And in fact, trivia time, this is actually the second biggest attraction in Disney attraction in the world. What's the biggest?
We're gonna let that Shaquille O'Neal thing slide.
Like
Did
the
you do
tallest?
math? What's going on here? We're not talking. Just gonna let him get away with this.
Garrett, look, you'll if you're a fan of this podcast, you'll know that I measure things in metrics of Shaquille O'Neal.
That's cool.
And this is a little bit over 28 Shaquille O'Neals. If you were to measure a Shaq, I did the math.
What's the trivia?
The trivia is this the biggest? This is the second biggest Disney attraction in the world at 199 feet. There is something that's 199.5 feet. What is that?
I guess it'd have to be Expedition Everest, right?
That is correct. It is Expedition Everest.
Probably Expedition Everest. Huh?
Yeah, it's crazy that you knew that without
Nailed
Byron
it.
saying anything. The attraction took 3 million pounds of steel and 145 cubic feet of concrete to create. Here's something about the queue that you didn't know.
All right.
Outside you were talking about. I don't know why I pointed at you. It was very
Jesus,
aggressive.
What's going on?
Hey, this is what you got to listen to this.
Dude.
The winding walkways in the outdoor queue. There's a reason why you feel a little disoriented when you're walking through them, and that's because they're tilted at a 2 to 4 degree angle to add a disorienting feeling to your brain. It just makes you feel confused, and the ledges along the walkway keep changing in elevation, so the entire time you're walking through a seemingly normal garden, but they are doing things with the ground itself to make you feel off balance.
That's so cool. And that was
crazy.
truly just a design choice. Like, let's make people feel freaking weird.
Yeah, just 2 to 4 degree difference. Because your brain picks up on those things, even if it's not like on the top of mind for you.
It does.
Also, another thing they do to mess with you is when you're walking down Sunset Boulevard towards the Tower of Terror, they have little speakers that are playing scream noises
No.
that aren't real screams, just to mess with you.
That is so cool.
They're demented. These guys are these guys are weird in the head. As Byron mentioned, the fall in the drop shaft feels fast because you're actually being pulled down by cables instead of a true free fall, which means you are moving literally faster than gravity. The drop sequencing has evolved over the years and now currently sits at 4 different drop sequences that are chosen at random by a computer. Disney had to work with an actual commercial elevator shaft company, Byron mentioned this, called Otis. You'll note, you probably have been in a bunch of these elevators. You'll see them on the threshold, the name Otis in the steel.
Most elevators that you have been on, and I'm talking to you, listener, are Otis elevators.
That's correct. And he gets a nickel from Otis every time he mentions that.
Otis elevators are the top quality. No, sorry.
They really are. And they worked with Otis to develop the shaft system because Otis, like Byron mentioned, is in the business of keeping their riders safe and not perceiving the drop. They had to break their own rules to make a shaft that would actually pull you down faster than gravity.
Really had to work that shaft.
And then, Jesus Christ. And then Disney created the AGVs, the automated guided vehicles, which are trackless, and that's what actually allows you to move into the 5th dimension. There's a little wire in the ground that transmits radio signals to your car to tell it where to go. Kind of like if you've seen those robots that like trace a black line on the floor.
I don't know about those robots.
Well, you should be knowing about these robots.
What?
Or
Where are they?
have you ever seen someone hypnotize a chicken?
No. You know who has?
Wait, did you not know this?
No.
When you take a chicken and you draw a line in the sand or any kind of line in front of its face, it will immediately just stare down at the line and stop moving.
I just get really self-conscious because I do the same thing. No, I'm just joking. I didn't know that.
And that's basically what these vehicles are.
Wow.
There are actually 6 shafts in total, 4 that are in the loading area. And then once you get to the 5th floor, the trackless AGVs move forward into the 5th dimension, which breaks reality, but then it brings you into the 2 drop shafts where you actually do the droppings. So it's like the little cage you're sitting in isn't actually an elevator. It's just a ride vehicle. And the actual elevator is just like a frame. Kind of like what you see in Rise of the Resistance. It's a platform that moves up and down. You go into the platform, your vehicle locks in, and then you're off to party.
Yeah. Also, I can't believe Byron beat you to a shaft joke.
That's true.
That's wild.
I had to get it in early because
Normally, I'm pretty Johnny on the spot when it comes to shafting.
And he just said, get it in early, and
I
you
knew
still
it,
didn't go
yeah.
for it.
Well, I don't
That's-
usually get it in early.
I thought that one might slip under the radar. Thank you, Garrett.
If you're watching
You're
the video version of this, you'll actually see all of this pictorially represented by the channel Art of Engineering. The Imagineers screened all 156 episodes of The Twilight Zone at least twice. to get a true feel for the tone before making this attraction. And I have to say, as a guy who owned the Twilight Zone box sets, I appreciate that.
There's a lot of viewing of the Twilight Zone.
I watched them all the time. On Sci-Fi, they used to run marathons of these around Halloween, and I would be glued.
My brother Andrew is a huge fan of the Twilight Zone.
I fucking love the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I've not seen all that much of it. I mean,
it's really good. You know what? You would really like it.
I bet.
You should watch, let me give you some off the top of the head. Go watch To Serve Man.
Ooh.
Episode about aliens that are coming to like for humanitarian efforts. And then there is one called Time Enough at Last.
Cool.
With Burgess Meredith. You should watch that one too. They'll start with those two.
Is that the one with the glasses?
Ooh.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I know about that one.
It's so good.
I know about that
It's
one.
so demented.
It's really twisted.
It's fucked up. That's an episode of... I'm not going to spoil that. Just go watch Time Enough at Last. It's good. It's really shocking the first time you see the real and dead, deceased is probably a better way to say that, Rod Serling. And he's introducing a modern theme park ride that occurs 2 decades after his death. How did they do that?
That's crazy.
Because he's actually on screen. That is actually Rod Serling. How they did that is through a clever and delicate process. First, they took an old episode of The Twilight Zone called It's a Good Life, in which Rod Serling intros the episode to camera as he typically did in the show. Serling is standing in front of a map that he gestures to and says something that may sound familiar to you if you're familiar with this ride.
Tonight's story on The Twilight Zone is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. This, as you may recognize, is a map of the United States.
That's what he says in the episode. Here's what he says in the ride.
And he points at that map.
He points at the map. If you recognize that, it's because it's the exact same thing he says to the intro of Tower of Terror, with the deviation occurring only when he says map. Here's the copy that actually occurs in the ride.
Tonight's story on the Twilight Zone is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. This, as you may recognize, is a maintenance service elevator, still in operation, waiting for you.
And by that time, they've done the cutaway to the close-up of the
once he says
elevator
the MA of map, they cut away and they change it to maintenance service elevator. So here's how they did it in the steps. So with the base to work off, the Imagineers accomplished a new intro from a legend no longer with us on this mortal coil in 3 easy steps. Step 1, cast a voice actor to say the exact same thing as Rod Serling, but then deviating to the copy laid out for the ride, matching not only sound, but cadence so that the lips matched up with Rod Serling. Voice actor Mark Silverman was apparently hand-picked by Rod Serling's widow, Carol Serling. Also, Carol was brought on as a consultant in general to ensure the authenticity, as she worked closely with Rod Serling throughout the Twilight Zone and was apparently his creative confidant and his harshest critic.
Whoa.
Which is like, hey, that's fun. Step 2, digitally remove Rod Serling from the old Twilight Zone intro and put him in front of a new background. A background which we're all now familiar with, a maintenance service elevator that nobody in their right mind would ever take a ride on. Step 3, edit it all together so that it appears as one seamless intro using Rod Serling on camera when he's saying what you want and cutting away cleverly when he isn't saying what you want, and then using solely the VO from Mark Silverman, who perfectly aped his voice. Voila, you got your
Can I tell you something really funny that I was thinking about?
Yeah.
In regards to what you just said. Every step you said, I was waiting for something surprising. Literally the whole time I was like, yeah, that's how you'd go about that.
Hey, look, here's the thing, Garrett. Okay, we are from Hollywood, right? Okay, so we know how things are made. And you're like, I would have been editing. You could have been editing this while I was talking and had it finished. But the typical person, they don't know what they're talking about.
They cast a voice actor and then edited it back. I thought you were going to drop some crazy,
they had to rotoscope him from that episode. That's really hard. It's frame by frame, friend.
That's huge. Sorry. I'm sorry.
It's incredibly huge. It's incredibly disrespectful, Garrett.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to drag you to the core of the earth, much like the concept for the original Tower of Terror.
That's correct. Oh my God, that's a callback. The new sequences shot for this attraction, such as the ill-fated group of folks getting on the elevator in 1939, among others, were directed by famed horror director Joe Dante, known mainly for directing The Gremlins and The Howling. You seen those films?
No.
They're good.
I've seen Gremlins.
I was about to say, Gremlins is...
Don't feed him after midnight!
It was so up your alley. I would have been shocked if you hadn't seen Gremlins.
Does anyone in that have a British accent?
No. I don't think Joe Dante has one either. He kind of sounds like this. He kind of sounds like a gangster, except the mane is turned down.
What kind of sounds do the Gremlins make?
Furby.
I don't know.
I'm not really sure, actually. It's been a while since I've seen the film. They don't make that sound, I'll tell you that.
There's like this passive exhaustedness.
They had to recreate the set exactly in the queue as it appears in the pre-show video. Fun. The ghostly figures in the hallway are accomplished by a Pepper's ghost effect, also used in the Haunted Mansion. And the hallway itself is elongated and enlarged by forced perspective. The hallway, even though it looks huge, is only 6 feet deep, and the back of the hall is only 4 feet tall.
I hate to hear that.
Isn't it cool, though?
Yeah,
it tricks your brain.
It's cool, but that's one of those things that I'm like, no, it's a haunted hotel. Like,
you could actually see something like this into a similar framing, actually, in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
yeah, I'll tell you where you can see something similar to the space you just described, this room that we're shooting in right now.
That's true. Well, this isn't forced perspective. Actually, you know what? This kind of is. The fifth dimension.
By the way, I love how, like, when we're talking about the filmmaking of changing the Rod Serling, it's like, I know all that. And then now it's like, you shattered the illusion. I didn't
Make up your mind.
I pick and choose.
Do you want me to shatter your mind, or you want me to adhere it together with my knowledge?
I want it all.
The fifth dimension, the mind-shattering moment in the ride where the elevator shaft suddenly moves forward, was inspired by a Twilight Zone episode called Little Girl Lost, in which a girl rolls under her bed into another dimension. Hate when that happens.
Oh.
That's funny because the parents could hear her and they're like, where are you? And she's like, I'm under the bed. And they're like, no, you're not.
That's real in that episode that happens?
Oh, yeah.
That's so scary.
It's Twilight Zone, man.
That's like that prank where they put the blankets over the kids and then they and then they unveil them and the kid's still there and the family acts like the kid's not there and the kid's freaking out.
That's so good.
You ever seen that?
Did Ice ever do that to you?
No.
He didn't?
No. My brothers would do stuff like that, but
Your
never my
brothers
dad.
are nasty.
My brothers are the greatest.
You watch your mouth.
Yeah, you watch your mouth, Ryan.
As I said before, the Mission Inn in Riverside, California, used as architectural inspiration, but also influencing their decision for the architecture used in Tower of Terror was so that it would blend into the sightlines at a completely different theme park. Epcot. If you stand across the lagoon from Morocco in the World Showcase at Epcot, the Tower of Terror perfectly blends in with Morocco because it falls behind Morocco, and this is due to the color and architecture choices employed by the Imagineers. That is what you call commitment.
Epcot, aka Experimental Prototype City of Tomorrow.
Community tomorrow.
It's either or. It interchanges.
Well, now I look like a jackass.
It's more often used as community, but Walt would call it city as well.
Let me tell you this, Byron. Who's holding the clipboard, huh?
Me.
That's fair. That's fair. You got me there. Hey, you won. Okay.
Which, by the way, did you talk about how that hallway disappears?
Oh, when it goes into the star tunnel?
Yeah.
No. Why, do you know?
Oh, I have like a general idea. Yeah. It's basically that hallway is essentially just all like very like thin scrims.
Oh.
And then there's like a bunch of fiber optic cables. So when the lights go out, all those walls that surround it essentially disappear.
That's
it's
fucking
all just
baller, dude. The interior of the hotel, by the way, was inspired by the Biltmore Hotel. Mentioned that already. There's lots of fun Easter eggs and details. Let's zoom through these bad boys. The child star Sally is actually holding a Mickey plush in her ghostly form in the hallway. You can see it clearer in the behind-the-scenes footage, which you're seeing right now if you're watching the video version of this podcast.
But like a 1930s Mickey?
It is.
That's cool.
And those are worth moolah.
Everyone says that about Disney shit. Everyone says that about... Oh, it's worth millions.
I mean, a 1930s Mickey Mouse, you got one of those lying around?
Is that real?
It is.
All right. I feel like everyone's like, if you have a copy of the original, and then you look it up and it's like $4 on eBay.
Okay, first off, my voice doesn't sound like that.
It does. That's what he sounds like.
What no Mickey Mouse? What kind of party is this? Written in 1932. That's sheet music that's found under a trumpet in the library. Also in the library are various props from Twilight Zone, including the To Serve Man manual from the season 3 episode, one of my favorite episodes of all time, the cracked glasses atop books from Time Enough at Last, and a small spacesuit from The Invaders. Very cute. At the bottom of the directory board, which is in kind of like a shadow box little contraption, you can see letters that fell off the directory, and those letters fell into the sentence that says, "Take the stairs."
How little of a spacesuit are we talking?
Tiny. Like this, like the size of my hand.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Take the Stairs is creepy.
Take the Stairs is really good. It used to say, "You are doomed." Devil elevator or something like that, but I think Take the Stairs is so much creepier. Like basically, Gary, you know those directory signs that have like the letters you push into the board? Some letters fell off, and on the floor of this little sign, it says it spells take the stairs.
That's cool.
All clocks and watches in the hotel are stopped at 8:05 p.m., the time of the accident. Caesar, the ventriloquist doll from Caesar and Me, is also in the basement. Funny guy. The lobby is actually filled with items from Hollywood auction houses, including a set of leather chairs that are 17th century Renaissance antiques. The alligator skin luggage near the check-in desk is real, and also the ones used in the pre-show video carried by the ill-fated bellhop. The number 13 appears in numerous forms throughout the attraction. The standby weight never goes below 13, even if it's a walk-on. There's a AAA plaque on the wall that has 13 diamonds on it, despite the highest award being 5 diamonds, aka a 5-diamond resort. And the most obvious being the fact that you're taken to the 13th floor of the building and dropped. This one's really cool if you're a big Twilight Zone fan. The permit for the operation for the elevators is signed by Cadwallader. Apparently, I'm not that big of a fan because I can't pronounce that name. Cadwallader, which is an alias used by the devil from the Twilight Zone episode, The Escape Clause. Also, the permit number is 10259, a reference to the air date of the first episode of the Twilight Zone. At one point, and you're going to like this, Garrett. At one point, this attraction was actually conceived of as being a working hotel as well.
See, that's what I want more of in the world.
Could you imagine staying at this hotel?
I wish that the whole world was like Mario design. I wish theme parks were more like that. Like, genuinely. I wish that, and I know that they try for that. I know that they do already.
They did it with the Star Cruiser.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
certainly
about.
did.
I wish that it was like entire like spooky land, and like this is a big castle that you stay in, and it's haunted, and this is like the whimsical, beach land, which they have.
You might be getting your wish at Epic Universe.
See, Universal. I like the competition. You're right.
But I want to stay in this hotel.
Me too.
It seems like a layup. Michael Eisner really wanted it to happen, but apparently it was just a logistical nightmare.
Oh, you go to use the toilet and the toilet turns into a ghoul? Something like that.
Yeah, that wasn't what I had in mind, but that also would be disturbing. Depending on if you're going 1 or 2, extremely disturbing. Also lost on the drawing table was the idea that this attraction would actually be based off of Young Frankenstein originally, and was going to be named Castle Young Frankenstein.
I can see the pieces of that in the final.
That would have been so cool.
Yeah, the lightning and the way that, I could see all that too. That's very cool.
It's back when Mel Brooks was online for the ride. Some lucky guests who rope dropped this ride and are the first to ride the attraction, you get to sign your name in the secret book, and that's always there. That comes from Walt Disney World magazine, so that actually is probably legit. I've never known that. I would have rope dropped because I want to be in that book.
Rope dropped?
Rope drop means like basically you get there at park opening. They actually put a literal rope up to keep you from going into the park. And then once the park opens, they drop the rope and everyone can walk into the park.
I don't know about that.
It's great.
Like animals?
It's like for weirdos like me, I'm there like chomping at the bit. I'm like an animal. I'm like a cheetah looking at a gazelle.
It's essentially your best chance to get on the rides before the waits get long.
Yeah, you could get on like maybe 3 or 4 rides in like a matter of 30 minutes.
How many times have you been to Disney World? And I want this answer from both of you. Or, I'm sorry, to Disney parks as over the age of 18.
Ooh.
If you were to try to put a number on
How many days?
No, like how many times you've been over as an adult?
Well, that number is going to be heavily skewed because we both went to school 10 minutes from Disneyland at college. So we went like all the time.
That's not skewed necessarily. It just means that you've gone 100 times.
Oh, more than that.
200?
After college, it was at like 300 times or something like that.
Really?
Because I would go in between class.
That's so crazy you would go in between class.
Yeah, get on a ride and go back to school.
You too?
Yeah. I mean, I do remember seeing like the annual, just for that year, like senior year of college.
It was large.
It was something I think it said like 120 visits or something.
Oh my
I'm like, that can't be right. I don't know if that's right, but I remember saying like 120. No
I mean,
way.
I go to Universal Studios all the time now though, because we're closer to it.
Me too.
This ride used to have a lap bar, which allowed for great airtime, but it also allowed a child to wiggle out once.
It had a lap bar when I rode it.
And that child actually got out of the car and ran through the first scene.
That was me.
And then they put, no, that was you?
Yeah, sure.
Is that real?
That's real.
No way. I've never heard of that.
The bellhop
I knew that they had the lap bar, but I didn't know a child.
It's pretty funny.
He could have
to a
gotten
scene.
cut in half. That's so scary.
I know. Well, I think it was a little girl, actually. The bellhop costumes are among the most expensive, costing over $1,000 each. The It's Raining, It's Pouring song that the little girl was singing was recorded in 1939. And that means that would have been a brand new hit song on the radio for her, which is why she's singing it.
No way.
Yeah.
Imagine the modern day equivalent of that.
Yeah, if it's like she's singing like fucking like
please, please.
yeah, she's singing please, please, please or some shit, or like hot to go.
Yeah, wow.
Hot to go in this ride, not as scary.
Interesting.
HOTTOGO. And now you go down the elevator.
I know about that song.
You do?
Yeah.
It's because it's hot to go.
I saw Joker 2 last night. We should talk about that, but after the podcast.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, we got to talk about that.
All right.
At one point, they had physical figures of the ill-fated five in the elevator shaft that were lit with strobe lights as you passed. The girl figure even sang "It's raining, it's pouring," and then blasted air at you, but this was eventually abandoned because it never worked. Apparently, the figures are still in the elevator, though. And these are they just used the molds of the figures in the Fifth Dimension scene.
Okay.
They just shot them. They just have them like placed in the elevator. But like when you're dropping and you just see a flash of like a figure, it fucks with your brain a little bit. So
interesting.
You actually think you're seeing a ghost in the shaft.
Either one of you going to take this?
I didn't have to.
Good for you.
You, in a way, took it.
I didn't.
You took it by saying someone should take that. And this is the last fun fact. There are multiple fabricated videos of ghosts on Tower of Terror.
What do you mean?
There was a couple videos, and for a while people thought these were real ghosts captured on security footage or just footage on Tower of Terror. There was one of a maintenance guy in the elevator, and you could see a ghost sitting behind him, and there was one of a ghost sitting on the outside of the tower by the drop shaft. And it was later found out that Disney, well, at least for the maintenance one, Disney actually created these to be viral.
Oh, cool.
There was a guy who on Reddit was like, "Hey, everybody, these aren't real. I made them." And then he proved it.
I normally wouldn't like to hear things like that, because in any other context that would be lame to like fabricate a ghost. But they're not at Disney.
The one of the guys sitting outside the drop shaft looks really good.
No, that's amazing.
I don't know if that one's actually been debunked, but it probably is.
That's interesting. I mean, come on. The idea of Tower of Terror being like actually haunted is kind of hard to wrap my mind around.
That's true.
I mean, unless, has there... Oh, wait.
Would you rather spend the night in Tower of Terror or Haunted Mansion? Which would be spookier?
Ooh.
Alone.
Well, Haunted Mansion.
I think Tower of Terror would be scarier.
You think so?
I think so. I don't know. Tower of Terror, there's parts of Tower of Terror that I'm like, damn, this is intense a little bit.
Whoa. Neither are as scary as Small World Overnight, though.
Small World Overnight would be an absolute nightmare.
Like BioShock.
Yeah, it would be very BioShock vibes.
Yeah, that was like a huge inspiration for BioShock and Ken Levine when he made that game. Was Disney. I mean, if you think about it, it's just like dark Disney, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
BioShock is, yeah. It's crazy, all the parallels, the princesses and the little animatronics.
Let's move on to the good and the bad.
Okay.
Let's talk about the good things and the bad things about this ride. And as always, Garrett, you could add or fight me on any of these.
Okay.
Starting with the good.
After a word from our sponsors.
Yeah, after a word from our sponsors, actually. Let's take a little break to thank our sponsors. All right, let's get into some good and the bad here. The cute first good, we have cute, absolutely spectacular. The mind games that they play with you when you're walking down Sunset to the ones that they play with you in the garden grounds. There's also a condemned sign on the fence as you enter the grounds, which is just like really fun. I don't know, everything is storytelling based in this ride, which I enjoy.
I love that. I wish, it'd be fun. Oh, it'd be a cool segment if you guys started doing it. Maybe you already do. Things that got like shut down. Like, do you do that? Like ideas that like got like, like Nick's. Like, if there was someone who's like, oh, I'd really like to have an alien floor.
Yeah.
I think that'd be interesting.
No,
things that never were.
We actually kind of do that in the history, but it would be interesting to put it into its own section.
This is my podcast now.
Look at me.
Oh,
I'm the captain.
Like
the guy from Captain Phillips.
I was gonna say like the guy from Castaway.
I love the atmosphere of the interior of the lobby. It has that atmosphere of just like people getting up and just leaving. Like you see like a mahjong game in process. There's like a dinner set up with like lipstick on the glass. Like I like we almost investigated a place called Bodhi on Ghost Files. Ooh. And that place, all of like the buildings inside there have like dinner setups that are like, it looks like people just literally just got zapped.
Wait, what do you mean? Why?
No one knows really.
Wait, so you mean like once upon a time and now it's been restored, or like
No, they left some of the things as people left them. It looks like people just left their houses.
Oh, like those haunting things on Titanic, like the glasses of water that's still on the
exactly
bureaus.
Well, I like that they recreate that for this Tower of Terror thing. It gives everything just this eerie atmosphere. Cool. It makes the lobby feel very full without actually having to put animatronics and stuff in there.
Have you guys shot an episode at Disney?
No, we would. That sounds like a nightmare.
Never say never.
The thing is, if we were to do that, we've thought about doing the railroad on the railroad, but we would have to do it at rope drop so we wouldn't disturb any other passengers. Because I don't like when people go into the park and they're like making like loud content.
I'm super self-conscious about that. For a guy who makes content for a living, I'm very like, don't look at me when I'm filming things.
I just don't want to bug anybody.
Yeah.
Also, back to the goods here, though. Not to mention all the fun Easter eggs and storytelling bits that tell smaller stories that fit within the greater story. This ride is just a storytelling masterclass. If there's a queue out there where I could have all day to explore it, just at my own whim, this is probably at the top of the list for me. I mean, I'm trying to think of other queues, because even Haunted Mansion, their queue is awesome, but there's not as many little hidden detail Easter eggs like there are in Tower of Terror.
I wish they would refresh the queues. I mean, listen, I love classic Disney. I wish they would keep everything the same, but I also wish it would be cool if they took, 6 months to a year to like put a couple million into refreshing the queues.
Dude, you know what's hilarious?
What?
They're actually doing that with Haunted Mansion.
Really?
They shut down the ride for almost a year and put a couple $1 million into building an outdoor queue.
I love that. That's something that would
But
make
people
me
were
excited.
angry because they were like, you're ruining the sanctity of like a classic museum like attraction.
They don't have to change it. I mean, of course I know it's changing it. They can add on to it.
I
Who
think
would
you
be
can
against
improve
it?
things.
Yeah.
If you stay in the same spirit, I think that's what Walt would have wanted.
Oh, people get so angry for this.
That's my take. That's my take.
Walt definitely wanted them to add a gift shop.
Okay, then maybe not that, Byron.
They're like, hey, you know what? We gotta recoup some of these costs
That's
here.
fair.
This whole world is a gift shop, man. Sorry.
Every level of this queue is amazing. Even the boiler room is crazy.
Yeah.
Apparently they shipped that boiler room from Chicago. That like a giant ass boiler.
Really? Oh, it's real.
Apparently. That's what I read on Reddit.
Wow.
Perhaps the best pre-show video of all time. I mean, like it's up there with Soren and Patrick Warburton and all the greats. There's some baller ass lines in this pre-show video. And also I like that the pre-show video isn't just like a screen hanging over like switchback line. It's like built into like a living,
It's like a library.
room. A library. Like it's built into the storytelling. Like lightning hits, the screen turns on. It's a scene in and of itself.
You know what is terrible? Maybe the viewer can relate. I don't think you two can at all. My mind kind of gets a little mixed up between Haunted Mansion and Tower of Terror pretty often.
That thematically that makes sense.
Yeah, when you were just speaking, I was like, oh yeah, in the elevator. And I was like, oh, or in the, the room that expands. And I was like, oh, that's silly.
Even the VO, they went crazy on this one. Like here's how they set the scene for the actual ride. Hollywood, 1939. Amid the glitz and the glitter of a bustling young movie town at the height of its golden age, the Hollywood Tower Hotel was a star in its own right, a beacon for the show business elite. Now, something is about to happen that will change all that. The time is now on an evening very much like the one we have just witnessed. It's fucking great.
That's cool.
I would love to write copy for a ride like this.
You would do so well.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, actually.
What would the ride be?
The Shyamalaniverse.
Oh, my.
13 floors of Shyamalan.
Oh, can I tell you something that's actually... You have to let me or I'll scream.
I don't want you to scream, so...
Great. I was thinking a realistic retheming of the Tower of Terror, which I'm not happy about this. Like, if I saw this, I'd be a little disappointed, but I'd go, okay, that's pretty sick. Because I like haunted stuff. I like scary stuff.
I actually imagine you, like, walking down the street, seeing the news, and being like, ah! That's actually pretty sick.
See,
like,
exactly. And it's kind of along the lines of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, however you felt about this, I'd probably feel the exact same. But if they did a meticulous retheming of the Tower of Terror with the TVA from Loki, that beautiful Art Deco, neo-futurism.
Yeah, no, you're right. It would piss me off,
Yes.
but I bet you once I got on it, just like I did for Mission Breakout, I would be like, this is pretty cool.
But if the design of Loki is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in anything. Like,
I
the
agree with
production
that.
design is so cool, and I'm like, that would be actually pretty sick.
I don't think that's that hot of a take. I think that's a lukewarm take.
You could go imagine the time portals or like the orange portals and stuff, and every different thing, seeing different universes.
That's good.
Disney, dude, someone's listening to
That's
this
on
and
the
they're
house.
like, they're actually like, okay, that's interesting. We didn't think about that.
As long as
You
they
might
don't...
have just inadvertently killed Tower of Terror.
I mean, can you imagine if
He killed Tower of Terror while wearing Tony Stark glasses and was like, retheme this to Marvel.
some exec out there just like, no one will ever know the truth, but one of the, teenagers of the kids was listening to this podcast.
As long as they don't do it at the Florida Tower of Terror, the OG, that actually is the only one that has the fifth dimension scene, I'm fine.
I'm all about that too.
That's
Keep
fine.
a Tower of Terror.
Keep the Tower of Terror in Orlando.
Yeah.
You can make the argument, I think, that this is a top 5 thrilled themed ride in the entire world.
In the world, yeah. I was
because like
in the world.
the thrill itself of the drop is among any thrill ride. Like you could have a seasoned coaster freak like Byron, and he still finds this to be physically thrilling.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the actual storytelling, the scariness adds a thrill factor. And then the show scenes. I don't think there's many rides that combine this level of thrill with legit show scenes that could really compete with this. Maybe it's top 3.
Something like it in the world. It's a suspense that does it.
Honestly, the only one that I think that comes close and is in the conversation is one we did with you, the last For Your Amusement episode, The Mummy. The Mummy also goes hard with the theming and the thrill.
Yes. But it's sort of bite-sized compared. I mean, both literally and physically. Like, you know what I mean? It feels so small in a way. But yes, The Mummy's amazing.
Well, this ride is 4 minutes long. That's crazy.
That is crazy, especially because The Mummy is like -6 seconds. It is. It's
Well,
like,
the one in Hollywood is, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even account all the like suspense building through the queue, the pre-show. It's
Sky's the limit with this podcast. The more that I think about it, like really, like all the things, the different themed episodes, the different theme park rides.
Oh, thank you.
You can do so much with this. This is
if they
cool.
build it, we will come.
That's true, we will. The hallway ghost scene, incredibly well staged. Don't really even need to get into it. It's just so creepy. And when this used to be a DCA, the soundscape behind it used to be more full. And that used to bother me when I would go to the Florida one.
Yeah.
And it was kind of quiet. But now as I've gotten older, there's just something incredibly creepy about this hallway scene. Like I remember when I first saw the hallway scene and the ghosts kind of appear and they're doing that kind of like beckoning.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And I just remember having this vivid thought of like, holy shit, this is a Disney ride.
That's cool.
Like, I can't believe they did this. Like, how did they get away with this?
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's some things on that are actually kind of genuinely disturbing.
I think you need that, though. I don't like that everything is being kind of, like, neutered.
Yeah, everything is. I really, really like when things feel scary. My favorite kids' movies, because kids' movies are such a beautiful genre.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite ones ever is, like, Millions by Danny Boyle, because it actually feels scary. The stakes are high. The criminals are real.
Yeah.
And I love when things for children feel real, when they feel scary, when they feel terrifying. Not too terrifying, of course, within reason, but that happened a lot when we were kids, I feel.
Yes.
It's things that were genuinely scary, and now it's just kind of like if you see something in a kid's movie that's a little bit unsettling, you're like, well, is that allowed? You know?
I can't remember what Guillermo del Toro was talking about, but there's a quote from him, and you could apply it to all, like, you know, Stranger Things, It, like these things where it's a kid, they're kids in danger, and it's a kids movie, and or even a kids movie that's scary.
Yeah.
And the quote he was saying was just like, it's good to have these kinds of movies because it points to the fact of how dangerous it is to be a kid.
Wow. Interesting.
And that's why I do think that you do need things that have a little peril in them, because it's true. It is dangerous to be a kid.
It is. That's wild. You don't know anything and you're little.
Yeah. Well, you weren't. You were always 6'4".
I was always 6'4".
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just got stronger. You never grew vertically because you were always 6'4", but you grew like in like muscle and girth.
Listen, I love that you said that I have muscle.
You look like you have muscle.
Dude, I want to be built like a house. That'd be so sick.
You already are.
Stop.
You're built like a fucking condominium.
I want to be built out of different materials of a house.
You look like a Coke machine with legs.
That's a cool Halloween costume idea.
You just paint yourself red. You're already there.
I love that.
I love the transition Byron mentioned of it being a star tunnel. And then there's like this lack of narration. When it goes dark, all you hear is like the crashing of the window. And it's just, it literally feels like you are disappearing into a void of nothingness.
That sounds like the Alien Invasion ride. I know that you said that you already spoke about that.
We talked about that with our guy Kevin Purge.
Yeah, but that's that terror of that.
A ride that you've actually been on.
Yes,
I can't believe you've been on that. I'm so jealous.
I can't hold a candle to Kevin talking about anything theme park. But yes, I have been on that as a kid, and it was terrifying.
Another line here that's great. This is actually the line that used to drop people. After this line was said, you would drop in California Adventure. It's, one stormy night long ago, 5 people stepped through the door of an elevator and into a nightmare. That door is opening once again. And this time, it's opening for you. And then you would drop right after that.
But for Disney World,
for Disney World, they have a different line.
Takes you into the 5th dimension.
In Disney World, that line happens. You go into the 5th dimension, which is incredible.
Door's opening once again. This time, it's opening for you.
Well, the first time I got on the Disney World version and your elevator moves forward, it like shattered my version of reality.
Right, because we were so used to the DCA version. So
well, because it's like you're in an elevator, you're not expecting to move forward. So as soon as you move forward, all bets are off. You're like, whoa, what the fuck is happening now?
Did you know
it's like that Nick Young meme where he's just like the question marks are on screen where you're just like,
I know that. I don't think I know that.
It's a very funny.
Did you know that the Fifth Dimension room existed the first time you went on the Hollywood Studios version?
It did for me. It did.
I did not.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
when that thing, like, I thought we were gonna drop, and all of a sudden the doors open and we started moving forward. Like, what the?
Yeah.
No. Actually, no. Wait, I did not. I thought you asked me, was it there when I first went on it? Because it's always been there.
Oh yeah.
But the first time I went on it, I did not know that was going to happen. So when the elevator started to move forward, I actually was like, "Whoa, wait, what's going on? Wait, this is an elevator.
Yeah.
Go up, down, not forward." And then when you drop on the Walt Disney World version, this actually might be one of the coldest lines in ride history. This is what happens right before you get dropped. You are about to discover what lies beyond the fifth dimension, beyond the deepest, darkest corner of the imagination, in the Tower of Terror. And then you...
That is hard.
It's pretty sweet. It's a bar. I fear it's a bar, guys.
No, it is.
Yeah. Earlier on, I like the mirror scene's awesome. The wave goodbye to the real world.
Oh yeah, well the mirror scene is only in California Adventure.
Hey, I have a question.
Is it?
Who
It is.
the hell has rights to Willy Wonka to give us the sickest
the boat ride, like a boat ride?
No, like an elevator ride through the factory.
I would prefer a boat ride.
Really?
Well, the LCD boat ride when he's like, "There's no way of knowing."
You can have it all. You could do that in the elevator.
You can't have it all. You can't have it all.
No, but seriously, who owns the rights to Willy Wonka?
I don't know. Actually. I would assume Universal.
I know it's Warner Brothers that makes the movies, but is
it Warner Bros?
Yeah.
That explains why they made that chocolate factory in City Walk that has no relation to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, why
kind of
did they
makes
do
no
that?
sense.
What the hell?
I'm not sure. You're going to make a chocolate factory? You're not going to give me Oompa Loompas?
We're starving
Come
out
on
here
now.
as Willy Wonka.
I want some
fans.
Oompas.
Who is this?
I want a guy to walk out with a little flute. And then a
That's
little
cool.
Oompa Loompa to feed me a cheeseburger.
Yeah, wow. That's an exciting idea. Wow.
Also, when you get dropped in the Walt Disney World version,
Yeah.
there is a sound effect that plays. This is demented. This is an actual sound effect that they have of a cable snapping.
Wow.
And then you hear like the zzz of it, like they simulate a fucking elevator actually they're simulating a death noise.
Horrible.
Incredible that they actually do that.
That's crazy. I forget this sometimes, but theme park rides are death simulations. That's
They
what
really
they
are.
That's what it comes down to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When people
Yeah.
compare this, it's like, what's actually better, this or Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, which is obviously it's Tower of Terror for me. For me personally, Guardians, you're having like a fun intergalactic romp. I get that. But this is a ride where you simulate death.
I have never ridden the Guardians of the Galaxy ride.
I think you should do it just for the sake of comparison.
I've come close like 3 times, but each time something weird happened to where I just got distracted or pulled away or someone was like, whatever.
How could you get distracted from a giant building that has people screaming on top of it?
There was a lot of drinks involved. Okay.
A lot of time over at Pim's Test Kitchen.
Yeah, the last time I came close was the Haunted Mansion premiere of the new movie that came out that everyone
My God.
forgot about.
Anyways, that does it for the goods. The bads, I don't really... I mean, did I even have a bad? I did have one bad. I missed the mirror scene from California Adventure. It's pretty good.
Oh.
There's a part in California Adventures where you pause at this little mirror room on one of the floors and it goes wave goodbye to the real world. And then you see like yourself in kind of like
and you get all
dimension
ghosty
form.
looking.
Yeah, that scene is pretty cool. And then the elevator shakes.
Wave goodbye to the real world. You have just entered the Twilight Zone.
The only bad I wrote is
Yeah.
I truly can't think of anything. I'm sorry.
That's nice.
I really tried. Look, I tried to be objective on this show and rightfully critique things if there is critique to be had. I can't think of one thing about this ride that I would change or I don't like.
I got a few more drops.
Wow.
Really?
Just to feel like, I think for the Disney World version, I mean, overall, like I would still take the Disney World version probably over any other iteration of this attraction, but still, I think it has the least amount of drops, or at least it feels that way. I don't know
if I'm
or at
really
least the
digging,
least intense, but
this might be more armchair engineering, but it would be cool if like when you move through the fifth dimension, because it looks very overtly like you're in a fifth dimension. I think it would be cool if it actually looked more like a hotel hallway for a little bit. And then with scrims, if the scrims disappear and then it turns into the fifth dimension.
What's a scrim?
Scrim is like a wall that is like kind of like it's transparent. It has like little holes in it. But if it's lit in a certain way, it looks like a solid wall.
Oh, cool.
And if you light it a certain way, then you could see through the holes and you see what's behind it.
Oh, and that's how they do the effect.
That's how they do the effect where they turn it into...
Where all of a sudden it's like hallway and then all of a sudden it's just stars.
If they did that while you were traveling through the fifth dimension... and it makes it look like you're traveling through a hotel hallway, but then the scrim disappears and you see you're in like space. That would be kind of cool. That's the only thing I may change in
They
this
don't do
ride.
that on Guardians?
No, they do that at Not Scary Farm all the time in the mazes there.
I've never been to Not Scary. Oh, wait, no, I have. I forgot. I did.
You would love it.
We'll go tonight.
Right now. Let's leave the podcast and let's go. And that's all I have for bad, though.
No notes.
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's a no notes right.
Who am I to note up the Tower of Terror?
Dude,
I will say the bad would be
get
if
that
they...
tattooed.
Oh.
Who am I to note up the Tower of Terror?
I mean,
It's an incredibly niche tattoo.
I really hope they do not touch the one in Florida.
If they get rid of that, if I hear word of it,
yeah,
I'll fly down there and I'll chain myself to this building.
I like that. They can up. Listen,
if they take this building down, they're gonna have to kill me.
They can. All right.
They'll have to kill me.
They can update it. I think that'd be cool. Do little things to it.
Well, as long as they don't change the theme to fucking like Moana or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Which, why would she be in an elevator? I'm realizing.
Oh no, they could find a way. They could do that. Like,
no,
remember
they
when
couldn't.
I'm still falling.
No, dude,
jumps in that volcano thing.
Oh, I thought you were doing the joke from Avengers when, or is it Ragnarok when Loki's falling forever?
Probably.
No, it's when Maui jumps in that volcano thingy or whatever.
I know
to like
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, honestly, the only re-theme I've ever heard is what you said. Loki would make a lot of sense. They just can't do it in the original. If they do it in Tokyo, or if they do it over in Shanghai, or not Shanghai, cool. Paris.
Don't do it to Tokyo though. The Tokyo story is so good.
Oh, the high tower.
Yeah, that one. That's
the high tower one's pretty cool. And then maybe do it in Paris. But the Paris one's good too. It has
that's
its
what
own
you said.
things.
Yeah,
it has its own. It has 3 different stories, and they're all really scary. That one's the scariest Tower of Terror.
The only improvement I could think of on the Tower of Terror is they should replace Rod Serling with Tom Holland. I mean,
what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, he's like so like old and boring, and like Tom Holland is like the vibe, you know.
I wish they would have let Rod Serling smoke a cigarette on this.
And Tom Holland would have two attractions, and no, I'm thinking Guardians would have two because he's got the web slingers.
Can you imagine if they did that?
Let's move to the world-class test, guys. That's the crown jewel of this podcast. But first, let's once again thank our sponsors. And we're back. All right, this is a rubric of 10 tests, painstakingly devised by Byron and myself to determine if an attraction is world-class. To receive the highly coveted world-class pass, the attraction must pass 7 out of 10 tests. A score of 6 out of 10 leaves the attraction up for debate for world-class pass standing, and anything lower than 6 out of 10 is an automatic fail.
I mean, what are we doing here?
I mean, this is gonna be a 10 out of 10. Test number 1, the average tourist test. Would the average tourist have a hard time getting on this ride? Is there a long wait? Is there a complicated queue system? Absolutely not. It's fairly easy to get on. There's no longer crazy long waits for this ride. The fast pass system, or whatever the hell it is now, Lightning Lane, Max. What is it now, Byron?
It's the multi-pass?
Multi-pass now, yes.
I don't know. I'll check my phone after this recording to see what they changed it to.
We are recording this right in the midst of them making some changes again. But yes, it's very easy to get on this ride. You just wait in line.
Oh, and it's a fun line. I mean, you're in a boiler room.
Oh, dude, it's the best.
Yes.
It's so good. That's a pass. 1 for 1. Moving on. The Leslie Stahl test. Test number 2. Would you be willing to wait 60 minutes for this attraction if you've already been on it at least once? Or if everything in the park was 60, would you wait for this? This is very tough for me.
Why?
Would I actually wait 60 in my heart of hearts? I have to think about it.
Well, wait, how many? But okay, I'm sorry. I know there was a rule to this, but you said if you've been on it once before?
Yeah, so we've all been on this ride at least once.
Yeah.
Having been on it, because if I hadn't been on this, I would wait 60 easy.
Of course.
But if now knowing what happens, would you wait the 60?
I got it. If you were with someone who had never done it before, absolutely. That would be fun to experience it with someone for the first time. That's why I would do it again.
Well, let's just say you go to the park. Garrett, you buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Every ride in the park is 60 minutes.
Every ride.
Would this be one of the rides you wait for?
I
think it would, honestly.
I think it would too, yeah.
I think it's one of the best rides in that park. It's a week park.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that.
It is.
I don't really have a take there.
It's a week park.
But the answer is yes. If it's haunted themed, dude, come on.
I'm waiting.
Yeah.
I don't know, Byron. What are you thinking?
I'm waiting the 60 minutes.
Oh, then we're moving.
There's no question. Like, especially if I like, you know, we're on the West Coast. I at most get to Disney World like once a year. I'm making sure I get on the OG Tower of Terror.
No, there's no way I'm missing this.
I will wait an hour to do it if I have to. I have, actually. I think I did that like one of the last.
In fact, the two rides that I feel I need to get on in this park are right next to each other. Rock and Roller Coaster and Tower of Terror. So 60 minutes, I'd do it. 2 for 2. We're doing great, guys. Test number 3, the smartphone test. Does the queue of this ride have enough to keep you off of your phone? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
If someone started watching TikToks in a line,
It's making you dizzy outside.
that would be. Oh, do people do that? Watching like, here's the 3 things that you need to know about the new Joker movie. Like,
Dude,
in the line?
if somebody is making TikToks or watching TikToks out on this line,
yeah.
I'm going to shoot them.
I'd be more okay with them making a TikTok.
I'm going to make
than
them
watching
into a
TikTok.
ghost. They're going to join the other 5 ghosts.
Oh, just eternal TikTokers.
Yeah, just the entire time being like pointing to things.
Yeah.
Did you know this about the Tower of Terror? I'm a ghost in it now because I have my phone out.
I'm stuck doing the say so dance forever.
Well, that ghost died like 2 years ago. Though.
Yeah. The say so.
It is a banger.
And I will say, even the exterior queue
It's good.
for the Disney World version. Once you're in it, you kind of like you're immersed. Like
The atmosphere is great.
Like, you don't. I don't recall any sight lines being busted or anything like that.
No,
you're in it.
You
Like,
walk through like a rusty fence that has a condemned sign with the date of the accident on it. It's like you're in the world.
Has anyone ever died on the Tower of Terror?
Just those 5.
Stop.
Just those
For
five,
real?
just those 5
No.
people.
As a matter of fact, there's so many amazing fail safes that go into this ride that because people are surprised. Oh, like has there ever been like an accident?
there's
Have the
incredible
cable-
fail-safes, yeah.
Have the cables that there's multiple cables. There is like a system where if it did break, it would like lock and stop or something of that
Actually,
sort.
there's
There's like an air bubble.
There
like
is an
if it
air
did
bubble at the
fall-
bottom of the shaft with shock absorbers at the bottom. So if all the cables snapped, it would like fall, and then it would still be kind of a fall, but it would be like going to an air bubble.
Can you imagine? It actually happens. Like it snaps and people have a crazy ride, but no one who went on the ride knew that it broke, and like all the Disney employees are just like, all right, you have fun? Okay, get up now. 'Cause
You know
it
what's
was, like,
crazy?
It just went so well.
I'm also so confident in it that if this did actually snap, it's possible if it didn't work out, my last words on Earth would be, don't worry, guys, there's an air bubble. And then we hit the bottom, and then I die.
Wow.
I hope it never comes to that. That's a pass for the smartphone test. That's
Yeah.
3 for 3. Moving on to test number 4, the Tony Stark test. How innovative is this attraction? Does it push theme park tech forward? Yes, it does. It uses trackless vehicles that lock into a drop shaft. That's never been done before, and it was used again in Rise of the Resistance. I think other than that, it combines thrill rides with theming, which is hard to do, and it figured out a way to do so. I think this ride is incredibly innovative, and it also combines a bunch of old tricks. I don't know. That's my take on it.
It's insanely innovative. I mean, it creates this like full loop, like this full circuit.
Yeah,
if you
it
will.
does.
Like, you
Yeah.
start
Yeah,
in
you're
one
right,
elevator shaft, you exit, and you converge into another one. And then at the end of the ride, it backs up, pivots
Pivots you,
sideways, and in that moment when it unloads the guests, that's when it's actually charging the ride vehicle.
That's right.
Which is a trick that you see in the modern trackless dark rides.
You see that in Rise of the Resistance too. What he's talking about is these vehicles, because they can operate on their own, they obviously are never stationary for the most part to be charged. So they do that in the like real tiny amount of time that the ride ends and before people get on. It's actually sitting on top of like, you know, when you have your iPhone on top of like a wireless charging pad?
Sure.
It's kind of like that.
Oh, that makes sense. I always wish that I this is stupid and no one will agree with me, but I always wish that it chilled at top for longer so you could just like watch the view.
You know what I actually wish? I wish that part was a little more variable.
Oh, cool.
Like if there was a part where it's like maybe you're just there for like 1 second and
That'd be cool.
Or if you're there for like 15 and you're just like, wait, what's happening? Is the ride enough for you to say maybe vocally, did the ride break?
ride
Ah! And then you fall.
Oh, that'd be nice. You're up there for like 45 seconds. People are like, I think there's an issue.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Ooh.
And what if a speaker came on and was like, so sorry guys, the ride's actually broken down.
Ooh.
Just kidding. Boom, and then it goes.
Oh,
that's
really
kind
nice.
of theme park. That's kind of like amusement park level
Yeah.
shit there. That's
That
like
might be a
some Six
little-
Flags stuff.
Yeah, a little carnival.
They do that all the time at like Knott's or Six Flags, which is awesome when you get on a ride that's like a launch coaster. They'll be
Yeah.
like, Oh wait, I did it. Have you seen the video actually of I don't know if it's like the slingshot or there's a drop tower ride where this guy, he got fired for this.
Oh,
so
what did he do?
So apologies to this man, but also shout out to you. It's very funny.
Yeah.
He would get people on the ride and then he would say on the speaker, "Oh, wait a second, I didn't get your restraint on."
Oh,
and then as soon as he says
yeah.
that, he drops them.
I've seen that bit done so many times by hundreds of different
It's very funny.
But I mean that's just like isn't that just a thing that people do that's fun, or was it at an official like Six Flags?
No, this isn't like more like a carnival kind of style place. It's fun. He got fired though.
If someone did that
As far
at
as I know.
Six Flags or like an established park, I would understand that. But
I mean, I guess you could give someone a heart attack.
that's cool.
Anyways, moving on. That's a pass for the Tony Stark test. That's 4 for 4, folks.
And by the way, as a capacity nerd, the fact that they could like run about like 8 of those
8 vehicles.
ride vehicles at the same time.
On the Tower of Terror?
At any point, there could be 8 vehicles on the circuit.
No way.
The only downside is that unlike the versions that they built afterward, which are like 3 independent elevator shafts
Those could actually have 6
that
vehicles.
are working. So if one of the elevator shaft goes down, at least you're working at 2/3 capacity. Whereas the Hollywood Studios one,
It's only 2
at
shafts.
best, you're losing half your capacity.
Well, because there's
if not
4
the whole
shafts and they
thing.
feed into 2 shafts that are actual drop ones. So really, if one side's down, you only have one side operational.
That's nuts.
Anyways, test number 5, the Hollywood test. Can this attraction be adapted for the silver screen? Does it have a comprehensible story? Yes, because it did get adapted into a film. A bad one, but it did get adapted into a film.
What are we talking? Made for TV here? What's going on?
It was.
Well,
it was,
even
yeah,
if
it was.
even if it wasn't adapted, I mean, I think Twilight Zone, just like an anthology series like this, is just perfect to get its very own original episode.
And they tell a beginning, middle, end story here. From the beginning of the queue to the end of the ride.
I want to see a new movie with it. Like a
I think they could make a good movie out of this,
Catherine
honestly.
O'Hara has to be in that elevator.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Like kind of as Moira from Schitt's Creek. That would just be like, it's just something like a wealthy. Oh, oops. Sorry.
No,
it doesn't matter. We're wrapping up. I accidentally unplugged my headphones.
No, oh, you want me to plug them back in?
No.
Yeah, you're fine.
I like to live on the edge.
That's
no,
fair.
but that'd be fun. I say, right? Wouldn't that be cool to see a new movie?
I agree. I think they could actually make a legit movie off of this. If
be
it's in
sick.
the right hands, the right cast, and the right tone.
Ooh.
Because I do think you could make a scary film off of this.
Oh, you want it to be scary?
I want it to be scary.
I was thinking they'd go the kind of like,
It could still have goofy moments, kind of like I'm trying to think of a
you got the first Omen on Disney Plus now. Come on, what are we doing?
Shaun of the Dead has some funny, scary moments, but that's more funny. I'm thinking of a movie that skews more scary, but has funny moments. Like the first Insidious has those 2 investigators that are really funny.
Oh, interesting. Oh, you're right. Or like Cabin in the Woods. No, that's
Cabin in the Woods is
too
great.
funny, maybe?
No, I think that's actually the perfect comp. Honestly, you've nailed it. That's the tone.
Wow, that would be amazing.
It would be good.
I mean, wow, it actually feels like that ride.
Speaking of which,
Huh.
you just also you're a genius, man.
What?
A good re-theme of Tower of Terror would be Cabin in the Woods because you would have that ending scene, the elevator scene when all the monsters get loose.
They essentially
Yeah.
do that in Guardians.
Yeah,
That's
they do that in
wild.
Monsters After Dark.
I've always dreamed of an adult theme park when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like Disney for like grown-ups.
A porno theme park?
All right, we're better than this, aren't we?
That is and that's a pass for the Hollywood test. Moving on to test number 6, the Simpson test. How likely is this to be replaced with something new? They would have to replace this in all of the remaining 3 locations. I don't think that's going to happen.
Is it being replaced if it's being modified? I mean, could you argue that is the Tower of Terror replaced if it's being modified
I think
with the
so.
Guardians theme?
It's like
Okay.
a reskinned, yeah.
A
If
reskin?
it's completely reskinned, like modified to add new effects, not a replacement, but if it's like a completely different storyline,
Because The Simpsons itself is essentially Back to the Future, just
Exact-
reskinned.
just
It's the
reskinned,
same
yeah.
ride tech.
I have a question that you two might know.
yeah,
This is exciting for me to ask. Where's all the stuff that they like
get rid of.
Where's the stuff that was on the Tower of Terror in Los Angeles here?
You know, that's actually a great question. Sometimes they have it in backstage. A lot of times Disney is infamous for retrofitting old props and just using them elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
But I would have to imagine that they're somewhere either in Burbank or in the backstages over in Anaheim.
Okay, do you think they're keeping them to be like, well, what if we want to turn it back to what it was, or what if they're being sold off? Or something?
I think they're keeping them just for like posterity's
Sure,
sake. But
sure.
also there are some that are in. There's some artifacts that are kept in the New Guardians ride, just as kind of
Interesting.
like a nod.
Okay.
But I think it's more just history. They have like a pretty extensive archives,
Okay.
which I would love to look at.
Wow.
God, I would kill. I would actually murder.
All right.
Okay, I don't think they're going to replace this. I think this is a pass.
The original's just too iconic.
No, they're
I
not
feel
going to.
like
They won't touch Orlando.
People
They
rumor
won't.
like there's always rumors that it's gonna go like
I'd be shocked.
maybe it's wishful thinking, but I just think Yeah, they already got enough backlash for replacing it with Guardians, which for the most part people think is a great ride.
Even if they take Orlando
but
out.
if they took out the original, I think what softened the blow of replacing the California Adventure version was that I was like, oh, you know what? The original is still where it is. And that, in my opinion, is like the coolest version because it's got the extensive like ride experience with the fifth dimension room and stuff.
In terms of iconography too, you just cannot beat the silhouette of it, the way it looks.
No,
it's
I agree.
so cool. I mean,
it's hard. It's harder to reskin that one too because there's much more ride going on.
It really is an iconic building, though. That's a good point. Like losing that from the skyline would be such a loss. Because I have to admit, as much as I do like Mission Breakout, that facade is ugly as shit.
It is. It's hard to look at. Like it is.
It's an eyesore. It's definitely an eyesore.
It's objectively interesting to look at, but it's also like
I don't enjoy it.
I just see the Tower of Terror behind there.
Yeah.
I'm like, if they would have painted it all like chrome and really leaned into it and lit it up and done some, I know they do some of that, but I'm saying like,
I agree. No, I agree.
Yeah. It kind of feels a little like we're doing this for 4 years.
This is a whole.
And then we'll spray paint it back. And
exactly. Yeah. I don't think they're going to remove all three. That's my answer.
What do you think comes after Guardians? Oh, I guess I kind of asked that already to you.
What?
Like what's the next theming for Tower of Terror? Because they're not gonna turn it back into the Tower of Terror. I don't think.
Oh, you saying after the Guardians?
I guess we'd have to be in the future because
it's going to be Guardians for a minute though because they just made
Avengers Campus. Yeah.
Okay, so it'll probably be
so
that for like 15,
if
20
anything,
years.
if it were to get changed, maybe it would be the
Loki. Dude,
Loki would kick ass.
Y'all can see what a fire idea that is because they can actually.
No, honestly, that's an incredible idea.
Yeah, because they could just have rectangular portals and just see into any property.
I hate to say that's fucking genius, dude. I really do think that's like a smart idea.
Oh. And the Wolverine versus Deadpool, well, like it could be like Blade and like Electro.
Okay, now you're going too far. Now you're going. I don't know about that.
All right.
Now you're getting You're going too multiverse.
I'll pump the brakes.
Now that's a pass. 6 for 6. We're just fucking. We're having a great time. Test number 7.
Garrett, you are. I just want to point this out right now. Is when we covered the Mummy, the original Mummy got a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Which means there is a chance it's in play that you could get back-to-back 10 out of 10 episodes.
He's bangers only.
Here's the thing about
bangers
me.
Watts.
Yeah, I'm a really like, what's the word? Like I speak in hyperbole all the time. I'm like, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And it'll be like a piece of bread. You know what I mean? So like,
to be fair though, this ride does kick ass. So does Mummy.
Yeah. You only got me on for the greats. I mean, come
bangers
on.
Watts, baby. The test number 7. We're at 6 for 6.
Yeah.
The signature moment test. Can this ride hold its own without its signature moment? Is it a one-trick pony? You would think a drop ride would actually be a one-trick pony, but because there's so many show elements and defining moments, you could actually make a strong argument that the signature moment of this ride is when you move forward.
Not a one-trick pony.
No.
Not at all. There's like 5 moments I can think of that are sick on this. So no, not at all.
And you can remove any of them. Like, and the proof is, for me, the signature moment is moving forward.
Yeah.
When you actually do remove that moment, which is what we had at Disney California Adventure and Paris and Japan, it's still an amazing ride.
The one that comes to mind is the opening of the gates on top and seeing the Disney park. That's the signature moment.
Oh my God, you're right. That's true.
But even without that, it could not have that and still be great. So
no, it's.
I guess some people could argue if you eliminate the process of dropping, what's the point? But I do feel that it serves as a tremendous dark ride before that even happens.
I agree.
So
it's not a one-trick pony.
It's a pass for me.
I never even thought about that. If there were no drops, it would still be good. That's crazy.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Pass. 7 for 7.
Yeah.
And let's get into the final 3 tests. But before we do that, let's once again thank our sponsors. And we are back. Let's find out the fate of Tower of Terror. Test number 8. We're at 7 for 7. The premature detraculation test. Does this ride finish too soon?
No way. 5 minutes.
I know. Oh, 4 even, but 5, 4, 5, whatever. It's 4 minutes is a long ride, folks. It's really long.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm fully satisfied after I get off this ride.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. We don't even need to focus on that.
No.
Next.
Yeah, I agree.
Brad, do you feel the same?
Pass.
Pass. That's a pass. 8 for 8.
You get a ride and then you drop.
Oh my God, this is going to get 10 out of 10. I think. Test number 9, the exit hall test. Do you see people be physically excited getting off of this ride? Do they have that bounce in their step?
Of course they do.
This is some of the best bounce you could get in the park.
There's not even enough.
People are laughing. They're crying sometimes. It's great.
Yeah, we all were. We have memories of laughing and crying off Tower of Terror.
It's fantastic.
100%.
This is a pass.
Pass.
It's been around for how many years now? Wait, 30 years, right? It's like 30 years
You said
old.
in 95?
No, 94. Summer of 94.
Oh my God.
It's over 30 years old. It had its 30th anniversary, I think, this past summer.
Oh man.
I don't think
And it still plays with like the amount of enthusiasm and popularity that it did in its initial years.
You know why? It's because it's a strong original story and well executed across the board, and that's never going to get old. And it's practical.
And people keep bouncing. It bounces you, and then it drops.
That's a pass. And now we move on to test number 10. Let's see if this could go 10 for 10. Not many rides have actually achieved this on this show. The fine wine test. Has this attraction aged well? Has your opinion of the attraction appreciated or depreciated since your first experience? Or if it's a new ride, do you believe it will age well? I mean, like Byron, this ride has been around for 30 years.
We already touched up on it, yeah.
It's been here for 30 years.
this is a 10 out of 10. It is, because you know why? Because even when it's a little long in the tooth, which it isn't, but even if someone were to consider some of the tech a little like dated, it's still analog and cool and beautiful and sort of like old school in a way that will retain its charm forever.
Almost all the effects are practical.
Yeah,
the more you
even
learn,
the Pepper's Ghost is using practical elements.
the more you learn about this ride, I think the better it continues to get. Like no stone was left unturned in terms of the detail, the story, the execution, the ride system. It's
really good.
It's got everything, and so I don't see it losing its novelty. It just keeps getting better and better.
I agree. I think it's a pass.
That's a pass,
Dude. That's a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Holy shit.
Has that ever happened?
Well, with you, yeah. Twice, I guess.
Really?
And I've been surprised by most of the 10 out of 10s that we've gotten on this show. This one I actually went into thinking this is probably getting a 10 out of 10.
The only one you can make the
And
argument
I wasn't
is
going to shoehorn it or anything
the
like
Simpson,
that, but
that's the only one you could maybe say like maybe it'll get. But I really don't think we're going to lose all three.
That would be the one
We're not going to lose all three. That'd be impossible. 10 out of 10.
commonly referred to as one of the greatest rides of all time.
Well, it's officially a world-class attraction. Congratulations to the Tower of Terror. 10 out of 10. Wowza. And once again, thank you to Garrett for joining us today. Garrett, do you have anything that you'd like to let the
promote?
folks? Yeah, that you'd like to let the folks know that you're up to?
Absolutely. Otter Pops. They're incredible. They're
Okay.
available.
Now I have to leave that in.
I'm always on my channel,
Yeah.
making haunted adventures.
That's right. They're
Garrett
great.
Watts. I have a side channel, Garrett Unhinged. You can catch my clownery any old place on the internet.
Also, if you're listening to this when this episode actually airs, we are doing a live show for Watcher. That's not this company, but it's another company that I do media for.
Wait, when's this airing?
Yeah, Ryan, do you have something to plug?
Well, I'm just saying because Garrett's going to be at the live show.
That's
with
true.
me.
Oh, yeah. There's a new video up on my channel with me exploring a haunted lighthouse.
Dude,
that Ryan and Shane actually
St. Augustine.
explored.
St. Augustine
Lighthouse. Check it out.
that place is crazy.
I haven't edited it yet, but it's probably be very spooky.
So after you're done with this 2-hour video, watch that 2-hour video, and then after that, come see us live at the Wiltern in Los Angeles on November 1st.
Imagine what that would be like.
Just, you don't have to. You could do it.
Wow.
GhostPilesLive.com. Anyways, that does it for this episode of For Your Amusement. If you're watching, make sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Or if you're listening, please rate the podcast 5 stars and subscribe as well. And consider supporting us by joining our fourth wall and becoming a park hopper, as we're calling it, by heading to fyapod.com. As mentioned up top, it'll help us keep this madness going, but you'll also get up to 3 monthly bonus shows in addition to the free main show you're listening to, watching right now. And you'll also find our merch there as well. Follow the pod socials at FYAPod everywhere. I'm Ryan, at Ryan Bergara everywhere but Twitter, where I'm at Ryan S. Bergara because there's an at Ryan Bergara in the Philippines.
Ugh.
And Byron is at Byron A. Marin across all socials. Garrett, what's your socials?
Garrett_Watts, and I'm so sorry you didn't get your username.
Oh, no, I got my username in there.
Oh, where's the one in the Philippines?
Oh, I'm at Ryan S. Bergara on Twitter because at Ryan Bergara is the guy in the Philippines. But everywhere else, I'm at Ryan Bergara.
You should fight him.
Thank you for spending your time with us, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. And see you all on the next ride. Happy Halloween.